Powered by Red Media in partnership with TSN, Season 6 of the Dregs Hockey Podcast, presented by our title sponsor, Tim Hortons. A delicious new menu has arrived to get us going and fuel us here in 2025. How about the spinach and feta savory egg pastry? It's baked fresh daily, served warm, stuffed with eggs, spinach, feta, all in that buttery, flaky crust. And you've also got the everything bagel and cream cheese, the 4 cheese omelet bites, and my personal favorite, the red pepper and Swiss savory pinwheels, all starting at just $2.99 and all part of the Tim Select's everyday value menu. So you're in Denver, right? You're getting ready for the big Oiler Avalanche showdown tonight, which we'll touch on coming up here in the Tim Hortons headlines momentarily. I'm in Winnipeg. It's the Seattle Kraken and the Winnipeg Jets on this fine Thursday. And as you asked, I am collecting these lovely blue.
Yes, that's them. Thank you.
Delta
that's
pens.
Them.
Now,
I like them.
It's kind of sneaky, and maybe I'm outing myself, and maybe I'll go to hotel jail for doing this. You requested 5, and I'm up to 3.
Yes.
But I'll be here for another 24 hours at least, Grace. So I like my chances of getting 4 and 5 for you.
So you got to look around the tables in the lobby, and there's always one laying around. And I don't know why I like these pens so much, but I think I really like them. You totally mock me every time that I bring it up, but I really like them. I do like the multicolor pen for my game notes, but I like those I use that for the blue and the multicolor for everything else.
Now, did you steal that from our buddy Darren Pang? Panger was always big on the multicolored, the old blue and white pen where you clicked and there's red, there's black.
First time I saw it, like used in our work, I was like, oh, that's a great idea. Now, Dave Poulin thinks that's amateurish.
Of course,
he uses specific pens. The problem I have is say like I put last game's stats in green. Okay. So if I'm writing in just green pen in my hand, and then I've got to change out to a blue pen, I'll just keep writing in green, and pretty soon I've screwed up the whole sheet. That pisses me off. Then I got to start over again. Because I'm the only one that sees the sheet. Nobody else cares. But it bugs me. It's got to be nice. So
I'm not a pen guru, but I don't know if you can see it. I have this one, and it has some heft to it, and it says Pro Cut on it. So Pro Cut has a couple of stores, skate sharpening stores in the Whitby area, right? So my son used to get his skate sharpened all the time by a good old soul Don, who God rest his soul, passed away. But this one is one of those kind of old school heavy pens with the inserts that every once in a while you have to go to Staples and buy them and recharge them and all that.
You don't recharge them. It's not an electrical thing. You put it in.
Yeah, you pull out the cartridge. It's cartridge. I was searching for the cartridge. That's
okay. Well, there you go. But I don't want the pen to be too nice, because when I lose it, which is inevitable, which is the reason you're collecting blue pens right now, because I lost the other ones. I'm just
we're going to get into headlines, but I want to tell you a real quick travel story from yesterday, because I know you love these and you've experienced all of these stories. So Air Canada flight, not that it matters, Toronto to Winnipeg, and I happen to notice I'm in an exit row, right? So not a big deal, but an employee of Sunwing, like the charter airline, is sitting in the row beside me. Lovely woman, very chatty, sitting at the window. Well, right behind her is a guy probably in his 30s, doesn't speak English, but you can tell this poor bugger has been traveling for days. Now, whatever, honestly, whatever is bringing him to Manitoba, maybe it's work, I don't know, but he's fed up. Like, we haven't taken off yet, and it's hot in there, and he's squirming, and he's kicking the back of her seat, and he starts coughing. And like, it looks like he's going into some type of an episode. Well, this woman stands up. She doesn't hit the button, which probably is what I would have done. She just stands up, and immediately she goes, "Okay, sir, you need to sit down and be still, put your seatbelt on." And then she recognizes that he's potentially got a situation. And she just puts her hand on his arm and says, "Are you okay?" And again, there's not a whole lot of English here, like the language barrier.
Mhm.
And he kind of gathers himself and, he goes, "I think so." And then, she gets the air flowing and everything else, settled it down in 30 seconds. Didn't hit the buzzer to get the flight attendants over, just, psst, 10 minutes later, we're in the air, and this guy is sawing logs for the next 2.5 hours. So shout out to this person from Sunwing, because it could have been an ordeal. It could have been a delay situation there, and it wasn't.
Well, how about her taking the immediately, like, the knowledge of, hey, something's not quite right here. That's really
Phenomenal.
cool. Really,
Yeah.
really amazing by her. That's awesome. Guy had a good sleep and probably felt better when he got there.
Yeah. I mean,
Good
it
for
was
her. That's awesome.
it,
Good for her,
it
man.
yeah, it doesn't matter what airline, it really doesn't. But those people from the pilots all the way through don't get enough credit, so that's why I bring it up here today. All right, let's check in on our Tim Hortons headlines, and we could go anywhere. But again, you're in Denver for the Oilers and the Avs, and we'll get your thoughts on how much fun this game should be. But let's go back to last night and the fact that just another multi-point game for Connor McDavid. But in this case, there's a couple of reasons to talk about him. He surpasses Jari Kurri on the points list of the Edmonton Oilers, which is no small feat. So what does he have? 1,044 points now in 686 games. So he just jumps by Kurri. And Connor's going to need a pretty good stretch here in the next 10 games because Wayne Gretzky holds the all-time Oilers record, obviously, with 1,669 points
Gonna be
in
a tough one.
696 games. So I don't know. Talk about a heater. That's a pretty good one. But needless to say, quite an accomplishment for McDavid. Not that we should be surprised.
Yeah, it's really interesting watching the Oilers right now because since late November, they're the best team in the league. They're 18-4-1. And Draisaitl's been amazing. Like, I don't know if this is the best he's ever played because it's, you'd have to think back to particular times, but man, he's been outstanding. He's got 31 goals. But it seems like when one of them doesn't quite have the A game, the other one just picks it up.
Picks it up.
And so last night they're down 2-1. McDavid gets 2 goals. He gets an assist. They beat a Minnesota team that is really banged up, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Minnesota's defense, no Brodin, no Spurgeon, up front, no Kaprizov, man, was an MVP candidate when he went out. And that was a good game. Like, that was a hard game, and Edmonton gets another win. And now they got to fly to Denver. And if anybody's flown to Denver before, the airport is barely in the state of Colorado. Like, to get downtown is like, it's a ways. So by the time I'm guessing it's 2 hours after the game, the plane goes nose up in Minnesota. They gain an hour. They land in Colorado. They got a bus in an hour. They would have got to bed probably, I don't know, 2:00, 3:00 last night.
Really?
And Colorado not very happy with their last game. So this could be a tough one for Edmonton here, like a tough scheduled game. And McDavid might wake up a few $1,000s short in his wallet.
What do you think of that elbow, by the way? I was going to bring it up. In fairness, again, the replays that I saw, I had to look a couple of times to just make clear that he actually made contact with Johansson's head. But he obviously did. The message I got last night from somebody close in Department of Player Safety, okay, it doesn't elevate to a point of having a suspension conversation, but you're suggesting it's certainly worthy of a fine and a missed call on the ice. With all due respect, those ones can be tricky, right? Because it was a bit of a flyby. But
it was a flyby. It would be really hard the way Marcus Johansson was turning and McDavid was turning. It would have been hard for the official to see it. That's why you have supplemental discipline. And I take almost every play when people say, "Oh, it wasn't bad," or flip the play around. If Johansson would have hit McDavid with that elbow, he's getting fined. At the very least,
Oh,
he's getting
can you
fined.
imagine? Can you imagine the Got Your Back podcast? Like
Oh my
Rashad
God.
and Strutty and Brownie, they like it would have been outrage. It would have been outrage.
And if if you've played, you know that elbow didn't accidentally get there. That
Interesting.
it's not much, and I don't think he's trying to
No,
smack him in the face, but I do think he's trying to clear a little room for himself.
sure.
And unfortunately, here's the other thing: Minnesota should be sour because yes, it's a missed call, but again, I think that would have been a really hard call for the official to make
Okay.
to see
Yeah.
actually in
Yeah.
real time.
It's hard.
I think it would have been hard. So they miss it. Now they lose Marcus Johansson for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
So
He's got
I
history with issues. Right?
I think McDavid or not, I think there has to be a little slap on the wrist, and that comes with whatever the fine is. I don't even know. It'll be a few $1,000s, I think. But
Yeah.
I think it just needs to go on record to say, okay, we got it, and then you move on.
Party last night in Beantown, the Black and Gold Gala. So all the Boston Bruins attending. You know, the brass was there, the Jacobs family, of course. Cam Neely, who doesn't do a lot of media avails, made himself available, as did Charlie Jacobs and several members, in fact, of the Boston Bruins. But the takeaway, Ray, was interesting in that Neely said they're really looking at two options right now, right? One is let's be a buyer. Let's try and secure our playoff spot for a ninth straight year, which matters in Boston and matters to the Jacobs family. Or if things continue to spiral in a downward direction, let's maybe considering retooling. I mean, that's a pretty wide, okay, this way or that way. Doesn't that feel to you? It does to me that the message to Don Sweeney, the general manager, is we don't want to retool here, buddy. We need to lock down this playoff spot. And you're not doing that by selling off assets. You're trying to add. So it's more likely, isn't it, that whatever they use as their bait, they will try and be buyers.
Well, yeah, okay. I get that they want to continue this run. You know, I mean, they've had really over a decade. They've been one of the most successful teams. You know, they won in 2011, but just prior to that and to today, I mean, they've been around it all the time. The problem becomes, I'm not a fisherman. I don't know what you catch big fish with, but it's not a minnow.
No.
They don't have, as I see it, they don't have a lot of collateral to try and get better.
Right.
And so there comes a time when you can only do so much in the summer, which they went and spent a lot of money on Lindholm and Zadorov in the summer. And then, of course, they made the trade with Ullmark and they signed Swayman. Those would be kind of their four biggest moves.
Yeah.
How do you go and make something of significance without deleting from the roster? They don't have a lot of draft picks.
No.
They're amongst ranked in however the rankings go, but near the bottom in prospect pool. Like, how are you making a deal to get better? And see, I think there's a third scenario, like you laid out. You know, if they make a climb, they add. If they, if they slide back, what if they stay the same? Which I think is most likely, is that because they've got enough, they're going to win some games, and they're going to win enough to be around the third spot, maybe in the Atlantic or the wild card. You know, you're kind of in that mushy middle part. And do you, like, what if you're there? And I think that's most likely. And I think that's a really, really tough place to be. Again, it gets right down to what do you have to trade? What do you have to, what's your collateral? And for the Bruins, that's a real tough spot.
Well, and teams would be swirling around Matty Poitras as an example, who's just been recalled to the Bruins from Providence. But maybe, you know, Cam Neely didn't put a timeline. I'm assuming because I'm looking at March 7th as a trade deadline. The buy and the retool could also happen in the off season, right? If you've locked in a playoff spot, you work with what you've got. Of course, you try and improve in differing ways, but you don't do anything significant, dramatic, one way or another until you get to the off season and you've got a bigger platform to work with.
Right, because that brings in free agency. It would bring in a more significant deal. Like the big deals tend to happen, of course, in the off season, because there's more time to put the pieces together. Around the fringe of the deal, perhaps. But those pieces might be the ones that push it over the edge. Hard to do in season.
All right, let's shift over to Detroit. And Todd McLennan, the coach of the Red Wings, gave us a reason to zero in, aside from the fact that, there's a team that was on a surge, right? Detroit had a significant winning streak, unfortunately snapped earlier this week at the hands of the San Jose Sharks. Justin Holl was singled out by the media. And as you'll hear in a second, Todd McLennan did not dodge the question in any way, shape, or form. Now, for those who don't pay attention to the Red Wings, didn't watch that game, the reason that Holl was called into question, among other plays, was the egregious turnover giveaway in front of his own net that led to Tyler Toffoli scoring the 5-3 goal for the San Jose Sharks. So anyway, a day later, this is a soundbite from McLennan, who was asked about
before you tee that up, this was right after the game.
Oh, that's right. Sorry. Yeah, I was thinking
I saw it yesterday morning.
Yeah.
It was right after the game.
And Todd, in fairness, as he acknowledges, didn't have an opportunity yet to tell Justin what he thought of his game. But anyway, here's what the veteran coach thought of Justin Holl on Tuesday night.
Sending a message, he sent himself a message. And I think that's pretty obvious. You can march him in here, and I'm not going to sit up here and BS for him. He had a terrible night. And that's just the way it is. So whether he got on in the last 5 minutes or not, it really doesn't matter. He knows he can play better. And, I'm telling you before I'm going to tell him, but I am going to tell him that tomorrow, and that's up to him to fix. I know he's a better player than that.
That's so good. Like it's so honest, and it's biting. Of course it is. But what's he supposed to say, Ray? I mean, the visual evidence was there in abundance. He didn't bury the guy, and he will give him an opportunity to be better. But heat of the moment, he called it like he saw it.
Yeah, it doesn't happen a lot. And I won't say it doesn't happen a lot. With today's player, it doesn't happen a lot anyway, because generally the coach wants to speak to the player first. However, in that timeline, he didn't have a chance. I'll tell you what Justin Holl did, and I don't know Justin, but I'll tell you what he did. He got in the shower, thought to himself, man, I suck today. Yeah. He drove home. He had something to eat. He sat up and thought about how lousy he was. I was going to use a different word in that game. And now it's 2 a.m. You still haven't slept. He's thumbing through his phone, killing time because he can't sleep, because he can't let the play or plays go. Yeah. And then you get to the rink the next day and you're exhausted and you feel like crap, and then you're going to have to talk to the coach. Yeah. Like that. I've been through that little scenario. Like you're so disappointed in yourself. You're so angry that you made the play that you made, or several plays that you made, and you're like, but you can't fix it. You can't fix it till you get on the ice again. Yeah. And it's a hard wheel to get off of in your mind. You just keep replaying the thing over and over. And it's pretty obvious that when you see that clip, it's pretty obvious what your morning's going to be like. Todd's not going to ask you how was breakfast. You're going to have to, you're going to have to discuss it.
I don't know why this reminds me of this, but I don't know if you saw a soundbite swirling around recently. I think it was Instagram of Michel Therrien back in the day.
I did that game. They were
where he calls PK Subban into the coach's office or into the video office between periods.
Oh, sorry. I thought it was the Michel Therrien when he was in Pittsburgh, And he said they were playing the Oilers, and he said, I thought we were trying to be the worst defense in the league.
Yeah,
That
but
was
anyway,
another good one.
yeah, that was a good one. But I felt sorry for PK, who was a young player at that time. And Terrian is just roasting him, like with question after question after question. And so Todd's assessment of Justin Hall Tuesday night wasn't even close to that. But as you're saying, it's probably not going to be a fun day for Justin Hall yesterday as he went back into the arena or whatever. That's what came to mind. So the Toronto Maple Leafs are facing some adversity now, right?
Right.
On the ice, off the ice. John Tavares has been placed on injured reserve, so he's going to be at least a week, and it could be 2 weeks or so is what I'm told on Tavares. Now that could be good news, right? When you saw the video of him getting tangled up in the drill, it was a power play drill practice, so he's out probably the better part of 2 weeks. We'll have more on that, I would think, as the day evolves, but he's on IR. We know this.
Right.
That aside, it's a challenge because they're somewhat weak up the middle when you look beyond Matthews and Tavares, and that's an area of need for Brad Treliving. What are you seeing in the last 3 games? Why is this team all of a sudden flat here?
Well, you become flat always when you have no offense. Marner's got like 1 goal in, 7 or 8. Nylander's got 1 in 12. Tavares has gone a little quiet as well. Matthews is just back. So pretty soon, all your big boys aren't scoring. So that no offense drags energy unless you're a team that plays a bunch of 2-1 games. Yeah. Even though they've been so much better or responsible under Craig Berube,
yeah,
their DNA, those guys, is to score.
Yes.
And so when you don't score, you never really feel like you're playing very well. Your energy sags. The other guys can only play as well as they can play. And, you're like, they tried Stephen Lawrence on the wing with Matthews and Marner, right? They're just looking for like some physicality, a little energy. And like, that's not going to work. That's not what he's going to be able to do. But you get to a point where you start grasping for straws a little bit. You're like, okay, it's been 3 or 4 or 5 games. We don't want it to be 15.
Right.
And that's really the concern. It's not that it's the concern at this moment. It's like, we gotta put a roadblock on this before it gets too bad. And so the other part is, of course, this power play is just must be driving them crazy there. Like
no kidding.
It of the things they thought they would probably have to worry about this year, I don't think the power play was one of them.
No. And look, that would be part of the reason, maybe a big part of the reason we talked about this earlier in the week, why you'd show some interest in Klingberg, right? That's a big part of why Edmonton would like him, or Dallas, any of the options, and especially in Toronto's case, because of how stagnant the man advantage has been, you can appreciate that interest. Again, I'm in Winnipeg, you're in Denver. So I'm looking at the Winnipeg Jets, and we're in that season now as we wrap up headlines here, Ray, where, we're connecting, dots, and you're looking at, and we're talking about some of the trade speculation that is going to, become more and more prevalent as we get closer to the trade deadline, and obviously closer to the start of the Four Nations face-off, February 12th. Winnipeg is curious because Winnipeg, I would say, is among those teams that should look for another center. And I think until recently, that was considered a need. They don't want to have to go out and lob another first-round draft pick for a player like Tyler Toffoli at the deadline that just didn't seem to fit. Just didn't work for Toffoli with the Jets, for whatever reason why. So sometimes I think, and this, internally the answers can be there, but you don't see them until you're forced into a situation. Yep. So now they've got Nemestikov on the sideline, and I think he's close to returning. But in his absence, they've used Adam Lowry a fair bit as a number 2 center. And what they're seeing is, Adam Lowry can play number 2 center. He's big, he's strong, he's feisty, he makes good plays, all of that. So you're thinking, well, if we can flip-flop Nemestikov and Lowry, depending on our game, between 2C and 3C, maybe that opens us up to be a little bit more creative and wider spread in the type of versatile forward that we might want to add as we get closer to the trade deadline. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, for a number of reasons. One of them is that teams, you've been in manager's office and coach's office, they have that big whiteboard that they, with all, they either have the names on magnets or they still use the dry erase pen because you can get rid of a guy much easier with the dry erase pen. You just swipe them off the board.
You're gone.
So they put their lines up there and, they have this grand plan.
Yeah.
And then somebody gets hurt and all of a sudden they throw 3 guys together out of, we don't have anybody else. And they just put them together. And that line becomes one of their best lines. It's not a plan.
Yeah.
It's just a thing that happens. Way back in the day, they were looking for somebody in Vancouver to play with Daniel and Henrik Sedin. And they'd tried about 15 different guys. And I think they were in St. Louis and they were getting their ass handed to them. And so Alain Vigneault just put Alex Burrows out there. He'd been in the East Coast League a year and a half before. And everyone's like, well, what's he doing that? Turned out to be an amazing line for 5 years or so.
Yeah.
Like it was amazing. But there was no plan. They're just like, here, you go out there. I've tried everybody else. So Nemestikov goes down and, they've got Lowry in this 3-center box. And they're like, we love where he is there. And it never really occurs to you that, if I break this line up, I might get something different here.
Sure.
But then when it happens, you're like, well, that worked pretty well. So why don't we'll get Nemestikov back? Maybe we try him here. Maybe it allows you to look for a different type of center that might cost you a little less because they still want to add on the blue line, right?
Yeah.
And so, you only have, back to Boston, you only have so much collateral. And you got to use that collateral the best you can.
Yeah.
And if they identify those as a couple of spots, then if one of them's solved without doing anything, man, what a gift that would be.
No kidding. All right, sir. Those are your headlines. Thank you to our good friends at Tim Hortons.
Everyday value with every bite. Say hello to Tim Selects. Starting at only $2.99, try one or try our full lineup of warm, delicious options. Tim Selects, everyday value that's here to stay. Order them on the Tim's app today.
It's time for Tim's.
Time, Ray, for Ask Ray and Dregs Anything. You can send us your questions on X, on Instagram at Ray and Dregs, or on the website, rayandregs.com. Brought to you by Acon. If you're a skilled trade person or construction pro looking for work in Western Canada, Acon wants to hear from you. Acon is a North American construction leader, proud to be one of Canada's original industrial contractors. They are building some of the largest multi-year industrial projects in Western Canada, and you can be a part of it. They're looking for skilled tradespeople, construction pros to join the Acon team, start building what matters today. Join Acon by sending your resume to trades@acon.com. And there is Ryan Rashog. Ray, I was surprised that Ryan didn't jump all over us early in headlines when we just acknowledged the fact that if the elbow had hit or grazed Connor, there would have been local media outrage. Got Your Back would have had a special 3-hour episode. He didn't jump in. I don't think he was listening, and I'm offended by that.
Well, we've been at this long enough. He wasn't listening.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the pose. He's not even listening now. He's just sitting there.
I was listening, but here's the thing. You act like it's some sort of local bias, which if anyone's ever seen you do a regional Leafs game, I think that, I don't know that you should be throwing that stone at my glass house, Dregs. I'm not sure. But actually last night we did do a show in Struds. He sort of played into that narrative, Dregs, because he went on for a little while about the acting job that he thought happened out there and that there was a major acting job done. So he was, hey, penalty all day long. Ref missed it. No outrage on my part. Probably a fine coming, I would say. But
okay. There we go. I like it.
Yeah.
We'll
see how my Twitter feed looks later today.
Raised on pine. That's okay.
No, of course. I mean, like, I thought the way that Johansson acted that all the way to the end of the game and didn't come back and play, that was really great acting.
He really leaned into the role, didn't he? Really leaned into the role. Wanted to really sell it.
It's like one of those actors that dies 3 minutes into a film. Great job, buddy. Great job.
All right. Well, lots of great action on email and on Twitter.
Yeah.
People sending us some stuff. But it's been a while since we did some rapid fire. So we'll go a couple questions here, and then I'm going to hammer you guys with a little bit of that annoying rapid fire that we do this year. So we'll start with an email from Travis Conwell. Says, love the show, guys. Listen to every episode from Elk River, Manitoba. My question is, when a player is out long-term injured reserve, do they still participate in team activities, meetings, attend home games, or are they out on their own other than workouts and whatever rehab they are doing? Thank you, from Travis Conwell. Ray, in your experience, what kind of distance is there between players on LTIR and the playing group?
When I was playing, when you were doing rehab, they often didn't want you around the team because of the time you take for the trainers. So like when you're doing rehab, the guys are trying to get out for practice and the trainer's running back and forth between the two of you. So there's actually a little bit of separation because of that. Now it's different. Teams have bigger training staffs. So there would be somebody to do the rehab while the team's getting ready to do their thing. It sucks when the team goes on the road because it's you and the rehab guy. You walk in the room, it's just you guys. Like everybody else is gone. Now the guys are more incorporated around the team and any events they'd be at for sure. But it's a strange existence, man. Like you're with the team, but you're not really with the team. Every guys walk by, they're like, hey, how you doing? But they're not even really listening because they're worried about their thing, right? Like it's a weird dynamic.
Yeah. I've seen Evander Kane around the rink. He'll be there for games, but not necessarily on a ton of practice days and such here in Edmonton as he continues to recover from his. All right, this one comes to us from Will Minen. Says, hey guys, Will from Minnesota. We've heard from him before. Says, haven't written in a while, but a thought came into my mind, and that is if the NHL could play an outdoor game anywhere in the whole wide world, where would it be? And mine would be Antarctica with the Penguins. Thanks for the amazing podcast, from Will. Dregs, anywhere on the globe, an outdoor game for the NHL, where would you want to see it?
Lake of the Prairies in Manitoba.
Yeah. I knew that was coming.
I could just pull the curtains, the blinds open from the cabbage and watch from there. That's all I would do. No, I mean, all kidding aside, from a global growth perspective, I don't know. I think it'd be pretty cool. And I'm sure maybe the league hasn't done it, but they probably had outdoor games in Prague, Stockholm, like things like that. And I know you're not trying to sell or grow hockey in those markets, but I think that'd be fun. That'd be fun for all of us.
Yeah, I my first thought was Europe for sure. I know, like when Landon was playing in the German league, they had soccer stadiums, right? 50, 60,000 people. They've had outdoor games there, so they do it. Antarctica is. That would be a tough one. It'd be a tough sell with the Players Association.
Oh, no chance. Minus 82 Celsius.
Yeah. You know what's the first time a player goes on LTIR with frostbite.
You know what's kind of funny is in those outdoor games, you guys have seen them, right? They've got the heaters on the bench. Notice how close the coaches stand together because all the heaters are in a certain spot.
Right there.
All right. Thank you to Will and company for the questions. Let's get to a little rapid fire, gentlemen. That's been a little while since we've done this. Keep your answers reasonably within reason. I know you won't. Question number 1. Doing the podcast from a hotel room, using your bed as a background, to be avoided at all costs, Ray, or is it okay?
It should be avoided. If you can do it. I see stacked pillows over Dregs' shoulder, which is really pretty good.
It's awkward. It's awkward.
Yeah, it's just you know what I've really had to do is like I like to hang my stuff around the room, and you guys are not shy of saying, "Oh, I
Yeah.
see you're hanging your workout stuff over the lamp in the corner or something." So I'm much better with that now. I think I've moved to a Dregs is never out of the home office, so
No. But
he's not sharp. He's not sharp.
this, I look at it. I borrowed a trick from Ray years and years and years ago. I was one of those guys. I always wanted a king size bed. Just give me a king size bed. But then, Ray said, "Hey, no, you lay out all your stuff on that
Two beds.
queen size." So that is an unsoiled, pristine queen size bed behind me. I'm not going to show you the other one. It's a mess. But
we don't know that. The rest of us don't know that. And if you recall, Dregs, a few years ago on our local show, we did a rapid fire. You and Dutty were on it, and you shared that, you are often sans clothing, certainly when you sleep and in and around your hotel room. And that's all I can think about. I'm looking at that bed over your shoulder and thinking about you.
Reach, do you really want to have hotel stories?
Okay, let's move on.
Because I have one or two that involve you that could probably come out at some point.
The biggest reason for the Washington Capitals' surprising success this season, Ray, is blank.
Offense, goals, aggression. They spent about a half a year last year kind of moving away from the old Capital style. If you remember at the start of the year, they still had Nick Backstrom and was trying to come back, and Evgeny Kuznetsov was there, and TJ Oshie was playing, but his back was just a mess, and they were slow, and they wanted to really become a more aggressive team. And they kind of sort of maybe got there at the end of last year, but in the summer, that was their entire focus. And they play different. Jacob Chikrin has been a massive upgrade for them offensively from the back, and their young guys are starting to come there. I really applaud, and you guys know I've talked a lot about Spencer Carberry, but he's got that team to not forget about defending, but think offense almost all the time. It's been a really fast transformation.
I mean, let's see how the rest of the regular season goes. If he doesn't win the Jack Adams, there should be an investigation based on what we've already seen. Honestly, I mean, to Ray's point, there was so much more in Chikrin. There was so much more, and now I think we're seeing it. And there's still more upside in Jake Chikrin. He's a young player. Pierre-Luc Dubois, the fact that he's settled into the game that he's playing for the Capitals right now, that's coaching. That's coaching. So Spencer Carberry deserves a ton of credit there.
Might be first star on the pod this season, too. Hell of a good interview.
Really
okay,
good.
Ray, in honor of your Oilers Avs tonight, I ask you, if you could choose, if you're starting a franchise and you could choose between your two best players being a forward and a defenseman or two forwards, which choice would you make building your franchise?
I mean, so you're asking me, would I take Draisaitl and McDavid or
no,
Makar
I'm
and
not.
McKinnon?
I'm not, because there's different values to those players. I'm just saying, the idea of your two best players with a bullet being forwards versus one of each.
Okay, I'm going to say the forward and the defenseman because the defenseman can play half the game or pretty close to half the game. I guess it doesn't really matter if the rest of the guys are a bunch of schlubs, whether you got two stars all over but I'm going to say, even though I'm looking at McDavid and Draisaitl and going, how could you not pick them? I'm going to say forward and defense.
No. Can I take one from each team?
This is not these guys versus those guys. We're talking team structure here. Structure.
Yeah, I'm with Ray. Forward and defense.
One of each.
McDavid and Makar, imagine when that trade goes down, Ryan.
I think most people would probably pick the same. Okay. Ask for dressing on the side. They put it on the salad, send it back, or let it go. Just let it go, Ray. Just let it go or send it back.
Depends on the saturation.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, if it is basically a bowl of soup, back it goes. But You know, like that's when I really enjoy a salad. You pick it up and you're like, oh my God, did the guy drop the bottle in here? Like, what happened?
Yeah.
So I would send it back if it's that bad. Otherwise, I don't care.
I'm with you. The saturation issue is a real thing, especially on a Caesar salad. And I like me a good Caesar salad on occasion.
Mm-hmm.
Had one last night, Ray, at Ray and Jerry's here in Winnipeg.
Oh.
And I also made a bit of a mistake in ordering a French onion soup. It was part of the deal, right? I love everything about French onion soup other than eating it. You know, it's slopping all over your face. You know, you're sitting there, you're trying to have a conversation, you're pulling the cheese strings out of your mouth. Like, it's like, what am I, like 8? Not eating a grilled cheese here. Like, what's happening?
I was just going to say, I haven't ordered French onion soup since I was 11. Like, I just haven't.
The problem is you got to eat the first portion with a fork and a knife to cut through that layer of whatever, and you're trying to push through it with your spoon, and
but you also eat chicken wings with a knife and fork.
Which is one of the most embarrassing things about that.
Not a knife. I eat them with a fork. It is an elevated way to consume this food. The rest of you are Neanderthals. You'll see. People are going to catch up to me someday on this one.
Question. When you guys are having wings, does Randine eat them with her hands?
Yeah.
Well, of course,
everyone else does.
Person.
I'm the only one. This is an elevated form of dining. And the rest of you are slopping with crap all over both your hands and smearing it on your face. I'm going to bring chicken wings on the show, and I'm going to show you how efficient it is, and you're both going to admit you were wrong.
I think this goes back to a long time ago. We had a discussion, and you were referred to as 6'3" roll of Charmin. Yes, and this is what I'm thinking.
6'2".
Right here.
You need that dry title bib, hey? Whatever it is, skip the dishes or whatever, Ryan.
Yeah, the bib they had. Yeah, I appreciate you calling me 6'2" though, Ray. You gave me, you were generous with that.
I said 6'3". Oh, by the way, speaking of this, you know, I was giving it to the kids at home about, you know, my hockey card says I'm 5'10", and they're like, not a freaking chance. And so I'm like, it says right here. I show them. So, of course, I'm the shortest person in the house. Next to Cammy. But I'm the shortest male in the house. So they get the tape measure out, and didn't quite make 5'10". Didn't make 5'9" either.
Oh boy.
Not so sure about 5'8" at this point. So they were all over me. It was an embarrassment.
Yeah. At 5'10", you're not a little ball of hate. You're just kind of a smallish ball of hate. 5'8", that's little.
Tiny. Yeah.
Okay, last one, Ray. Darren Dreger singing on the podcast earlier this week was blank.
Horrific.
Here's
Terrible.
the story of Ray Ferraro and a pesky little critter called a raccoon. Anyway, go ahead.
It was terrible.
Never.
It was terrible. Yet to come up with the Brady Bunch theme of all
I
the
don't
things,
know.
like what the hell?
I'm not gonna lie. I was flying yesterday. I mean, sometimes you're in your own head because you've got time to do it, and that popped into my brain. I'm like, there's a little bit of regret in that. I really can't.
Because here's the story of Ray Ferraro and a pesky little critter called a raccoon.
It'll never happen again.
Go ahead.
That's the last time we'll ever use that. Promise, Dregs. I promise.
Sure. Hey, by the way, where's the video? We were supposed to get video, which was supposed to be posted on the Ray and Dregs socials of you and the raccoon and the nonsense.
I'll send it.
Oh,
send it right now. I'll send it right now. As soon as we finish, I'll send it into the chat for sure. And I showed John Butchergross last night. We were having dinner before we're doing the game tonight, and he's like, "Oh, you're pretty mobile," meaning I'm not. Like you're.
Let's have a poll. This could be a Ray and Dregs social media poll, Ryan.
Oh yeah.
Let's
like to
rate
think
Ray Ferraro's mobility.
I'll get our social media team on that.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought I was more athletic till seeing this video, and I'm like, Jesus, look at that. That's just no good, man.
That was Ask Ray and Dregs Anything, brought to you by our good friends over at Acon. See you, fellas.
Thanks, Ryan.
Later,
You know what,
Ryan.
it feels like we gotta land this plane, Ray. Feels like this
Yeah, well-
one is it's getting long. And you're busy. You've got Abs
With
and
the game.
Oilers. I've got to get over to the arena for the Jets and the Seattle Kraken.
Short
It's been a
walk
good
though.
week. Hmm? Yeah.
Short walk though.
And don't, even though it's nice out, I don't know. It's like it's around 0 Celsius here
Okay.
in Winnipeg, but it's getting cold on the weekend, dipping into the minus 25 range again. So
Well,
I won't be here for
I'm just getting out of Denver, and then it's going to be the same here.
that.
And I was like, oof.
Yeah, get
That's
out.
I have no place I've been to where the weather can change as fast and as harshly as here, as Denver. Like, it's like people are walking around. We walked home from dinner yesterday. It was awesome. And
Yeah.
we're like, yeah, it's going to be minus 20.
I love Denver. Yeah.
Great place. Good city.
Other than
But,
flying there and having to take a train and everything else to
Yeah.
get into Denver. As you
Yeah,
said.
well, there is that. Well, enjoy your time in Winnipeg. Dregs, remember,
buddy.
2 more pens. Don't be shy.
2 more. You know what? I might even fight for 6. We'll see how it goes. But it's,
That would be
I've got
amazing.
3. I'm halfway there. All right. Safe travels, my friend.
Thanks. Same to you. Enjoy Winnipeg, and thanks for listening, everyone.
You bet. And thank you to our sponsors who continue to support the Rain Dregs Hockey Podcast. Our title sponsor, Tim Hortons, and our good friends at Acon. Until next time, stay safe, everybody.